Hey guys, Matt here. So I am just driving home from a job interview that I really want. It's the Vinoy Marriott for a fine dining and room server. It's a very good job. It's at a luxury resort on the beach. So yeah, I'm on my drive back home, and I just thought it'd be a good idea to kind of fill everyone in on what's going on. So let's start with my wife. She never told her parents we were married. She was holding off. So her father found out that his daughter is married and in jail at the same time. And me and him have finally talked. Surprise. Your daughter beat me up and got thrown in jail, and but anyways, it ended all well because he thanked me for not hurting her when she was hitting me, because he knows his daughter, and he said in the worst English you could imagine, he called me a true gentleman for not hurting his daughter, even though she was hurting me. So he is flying from Taipei here to Tampa, kind of rhymes, and he's going to be staying at my place, me and him alone, getting to know each other. I have no clue how their culture works, but there are very strict rules and stuff like that, but he knows that I love his daughter and that I'm doing the most to help her, so that's what I think really matters to him. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a story time, and this is going to be my COVID experience, and this is kind of like what kick-started. I'll go into my past before that, but that's kind of like the defining moment, the real defining moment in my life. Before that, it's one thing, and after that, it's another, so we'll start there. In July of 21, I got like a real bad flu, and I thought I was fine, and it just got so bad to the point where I'm just in the shower trying to control the cold sweats, and just nothing will work. And after 5 hours in the shower, my roommate checks in on me. He's alarmed, carries me back to my room, and that's the last thing I remember. I guess I had lost consciousness in my room. My fiance, my girlfriend, not my wife, the one who died, was also helping carry me in, and a few hours later he had to get up to go to work, and he came in to check on me, and I had thrown up. I had number 2'd on myself, and I was completely unresponsive, and he went into a panic, started screaming at my girlfriend about why she wasn't doing anything, and I was obviously dying, and what is wrong with her, and blah 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 blah, and called 911 for an ambulance. As the ambulance is rushing over, what does she do? She empties out my wallet, she takes the cards, she takes everything, she drains my bank account, she just takes everything. I mean, she probably didn't expect me to survive, and I guess if I would have seen myself, I wouldn't have expected me to survive either, because I flatlined on the way to the hospital. So, again, they were able to resuscitate me in the ambulance, But when we got to the hospital, I was alive, but in a coma with really bad breathing and O2 levels, and my organs were shutting down, and I ended up in a medical and natural coma, and in the ICU, intubated with a tube down my throat, and then of course a tube up my number 1 and number 2. So that's fun. And I don't remember being in the coma. I was knocked out, but I guess they were very quick with trying to pull the plug on me, even though I had brain activity because my organs were failing, and I was an organ donor, and they had organs that they could use, like my eyes and things like that, and my heart was healthy still, things like that, and they were trying to pull the plug, and my family got a lawyer, and they started fighting the hospital, and they set a date, then they pushed it back 12 hours, and they set another 12 hours later, lawyer fights, and all that stuff, and I woke up 5 hours before one of those times, and I couldn't really move because I was so sedated. Keep in mind, I wasn't supposed to wake up. I was in a natural coma, yes, but I was also in a medical coma because they didn't know if I was awake and feeling everything, so they wanted to be sure I wasn't in pain, so they knocked me out. But my body built a tolerance to the anesthesia, and eventually the effectiveness of the medical coma wore off. And I remember what woke me up. It was thirst. I have never been so thirsty in my life. Never had such dry mouth. It felt like the inside of my mouth was crocodile skin. It was ridiculous. That's literally what woke me up, was my body freaking out for water, and I started waking up, and I opened my eyes, and I couldn't really move. I'm, still sedated, like I'm not able to move, so I just look over at the nurse's station, and I'm waiting for one of the nurses to look over, and finally one looks over, and I start shaking my eyes in all directions, and she taps the nurse next to her, and she goes, "Hey, I think he's awake." And I hear her say, "No, that's not possible, he's put under." And she goes, "No, look, he's awake." And the other nurse looks at me, and I start shaking my eyes up and down, like in a yes direction, and I was able to kind of shake my hand like this, like kind of in the motion that you would if you were wanting to write with a pen. And they immediately recognized that. They started taking care of me, and I was able to write thirsty on the pad, and they swabbed my mouth. I was still on the intubator, and it was horrible, and I was 3.5 days on the intubator, and the only way I could describe it is duct taping your whole face so you can't breathe, and poking a hole and putting a McDonald's straw in there, and getting on a treadmill and going on a brisk walk and trying to catch your breath through that. You are always winded. It is unbearable. So because I was awake and on the coma for so long, I lost my breathing reflex. So whenever they pull an intubator out, they have to hook up a breathalyzer to it. I say a breathalyzer, but it's like a breathalyzer that hooks up to it. And I have to inhale through the intubator as hard as my lungs are capable. And it's a score from 1 to 100, and you have to hit a 45 or higher for them to medically be able to pull the intubator, otherwise your lungs are too weak. And she told me, like, this is the most important test of your life, so do the best you can. And guess what? 45.0. So she goes, my goodness, she goes, 0.1 lower, I wouldn't be able to. She goes, I gotta ask for permission. And she texted the doctor, and she got special authorization, and she pulled it. And I went to go take a breath, and nothing happened. My lungs didn't move. And I went to go take another breath, nothing happened. And that's when she started screaming at me, breathe, breathe, breathe. You don't want me to put this in. Breathe, effing breathe. And I was like, oh God, I don't want her to put this back in. And if she puts it back in, I'm probably a dead man. And so I tried my hardest in my life to take a breath, and it was the weirdest feelings. It was like my lungs popped and inflated and filled with air. It was like kind of like that. And then I was like sitting there panting, catching my breath, and she was like clapping, and my hand was kind of resting palm up on the bed, and she high-fived it, and she was like so stoked. She was really professional, but also very caring doctor. Because you could tell she genuinely cared. And but because I had been on the intubator so long, I lost my breathing reflex, and they didn't. I guess that's not really supposed to happen. So I told them, like, hey, every breath is like I have to tell my lungs to breathe and tell my lungs to exhale, kind of like meditation would be. And if I would like get distracted by the TV, I would forget to breathe. And then I would only be reminded to breathe either by tunnel vision or by the machines starting to go nuts. So I was doing inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. Rinse and repeat. I did that for 68 and a half hours. And I was like, I gotta sleep sometime, and my lungs are gonna shut down, so I made my peace with death. And I'll kind of glaze over this part. If you guys show interest, I'll dive more into this. But the second time my heart stopped, I was very, very conscious. It wasn't like the first time where it was all nothing. This time it was everything. I realized that my body was hardening and that I was dying. I felt them doing CPR and doing the work on me. I heard them screaming my name, trying to wake me up. I was trying to sit up and wake up and move my body and stuff like that. My body just wasn't responding, and it was responding less and less by the second. I was like, shoot. Am I dying? Frick. Yes. Okay, is there anything I can do about it? Nope. Alright, well, hold on for the ride. And, sorry about that, it's a phone call. So, it was very vivid, and I had a very big spiritual experience, and I found God through that. And I felt life enter me again, kind of like a breeze. Like, when you're working out and you're sweaty and you get that cool breeze over your whole body and everything. That's what it felt like. And I just shot up on the ICU table and gasped a breath of air. There were 4 doctors. There were nurses too, but the doctors are in bright yellow gowns for the COVID PPE at the hospital I was, so I only really noticed them in my drugged up, dead state. And 2 of them, like, one fell over, one stumbled into the wall, one was holding charged paddles, absolutely speechless, and the other one was stuttering, are you okay? I'm like, like, and he's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, you're the doctor, you tell me. I was like, I'm in your ICU. And long story short, they didn't know what happened, and they chalked it up to an interaction between all the medications. And I was like, whoa, I'm not on any meds normally. How many meds do you have me on? And she was like, a lot. And I was like, no, count them, give me a number. And she was like, no, you got a lot of them. And I was like, no, give me a number. And I made her read out the chemical names to me one by one. And when she got past 12, that's whenever I started pulling out the IVs. And I was like, you guys are just pumping me with poison. And guys, this is not an anti-medicine. This is not an anti-vax, anti-science thing at all. I am a firm believer in modern medicine. I just also am a firm believer that we know our own bodies better than the doctor know our own bodies. And I knew that my body wasn't doing well in the hospital, being pumped full of those medications. And I said, I want to go home. And I've died twice now. If I die, I die, but I want to do it in comfort. I want to do it at home. And they try to stop me, and they try to legally hold me, but I'm in my right mind, so they can't stop me. And, there's not, it's just I had to call friends to come pick me up, but I really had to fight with the hospital to get out of there. I was told I wouldn't live 24, 48 hours because I was in kidney failure at 14%. I was in liver failure at 19%. And,